Recording to the computer. Okay. All right, now I'm going to do a screen share. And all right, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to be using this thing called JSBin a lot. Yeah, I'll be using this quite a bit. So this is a little tool that I have online that makes it easy for me to type in some code and then run it and then be able to see the output just in the window right next to it. So for example, const.log hi, hit run, and then it prints out right here. And I'm actually going to be figuring out a different editor in the future. All right, never mind. JSBin has died. It started acting up on me like last Saturday, and anyway, they're kind of buggy. So never mind. All right, we're going to use JSFiddle. It's essentially doing the same thing. So type in some JavaScript code in here, and then if I do console.log, it's going to run down in the console below. So I run that, and we see hi is printed out to the console. Okay. So, all right. So we're going to be reviewing just some basic elements of JavaScript. You know, some different topics like control flow. Everyone was still on the call. Are people on their messaging? Okay, cool. All right. All right, cool. So essentially we're just going to cover some basic topics, things like that, along the way while we teach some of the new basic ES6 features. ES6 it's a language specification. It's new features that are added onto the JavaScript language. So the version of JavaScript that you used in the pre-course work was ES5. So that was like an older version of JavaScript. There's a newer one called ES6. There's even a newer one called ES7, but ES7 is very much in the experimental phase. Hardly any companies are using it, and it's not supported in most browsers yet. ES6 isn't even really supported in like 100% across browsers and platforms. So anyway, ES6 is very new, and then ES7 is even like newer than that, but it will take a while before ES7 has wide adoption, but eventually that's what you'll be learning. So ES6 again is just it's JavaScript 2, you know, or just the next version of the language. You'll also see it referred to as ES 2015. So ES6 or ES 2015 are the same thing. Okay, so some of the basic things with the language. All right, the first thing that we're going to cover is this idea behind variables. So what you guys are used to is, you know, var message is equal to hello, and then if I say console.log message, so what's happening is as the computer reads this file, it reads it from left to right, top to bottom. And so it sees this var keyword. That means that the next group of characters that comes after it will be the name or the reference to a value that will exist in memory. And so var message is a reference, left-hand reference that will be equal to a string called hello that is set in memory. So it's a reference to a piece of data in memory. And then we were saying console.log message. So with log message, it goes back up, grabs the string that is referenced by message, and then passes it into the log method on the global console object. Prints that out to the console down below. So that's kind of the general flow. So declare a variable, assign a string to it, come down below, reference the global console object, call the log method on it, pass it the string, print the string out to the console. Okay. So in ES6, we will not be using var anymore. So no more var. We're going to be using const and let. Const and let are the two. So var has now become const and let. So you can still use var, but I would just encourage you to use const and let and prefer those over var. And then I would say prefer const. So always use const, and then if you can't use const, then use let. So I'll explain what their differences are in just a moment. So with const, oops. So with const, it defines this variable. But the difference between const and var is that with const, we are saying that this reference cannot be reassigned. So message cannot be set to anything else. So if I tried to do message is equal to some new message, so just another string, we're going to see an error. And so it's going to say assignment to constant variable, so you can't do that. So if, in this instance, if we really wanted to overwrite message and change it, then we would use let instead of const. And so let is a reference that can be changed. It can be changed to refer to different things. And so, so let, again, is what we would use if we have a reference that we're going to be reassigning to different values. Const is a reference that we cannot change. So, all right, so there, const message. This code right here would not be valid, it would break. Okay, so there's some more like nuances to it and a couple more interesting things that we'll get into in a little bit, but essentially just use const over let, and then use const and let instead of var. So if we're doing a for loop, we're going to log out I. We're going to use a let because I is going to be reassigned over and over again. So if I try to do, again, const here, assignment a constant variable, because what's happening when we do I++ is I++ is essentially saying I is equal to I plus 1, and it is overwriting the reference, and so it actually reassigns it. And so const does not work in a for loop, so you have to use let. Okay, so for let I get 0, I less than 5, I++, const.log I. Okay, so there's let. All right, const and let. Okay, so there's, well, okay, yeah, let's talk about this right now. All right, so if statements. All right, so right here, if keyword, and then in parentheses, we put some type of expression. If it evaluates to true, then this block will execute. If it evaluates to false, this block is skipped. So I can literally put in true like this, and it will run. So I can change this to 1 equals 1. And that's true. Does 1 equals 6? Nope, and so nothing ran. I could change this to, 5 is greater than 2, and that's true. 2 is greater than 5, 5 is less than 2. Obviously, it's not true. So these expressions in here will evaluate to either true or false. If they evaluate to true, then the block is run. If not, they won't run. So before, in JavaScript, if I did var x is equal to high right here, and I define this inside of this if block, this if statement, and then I did console.log x right here, you'll see that high is printed out to the console. It works. If I were to come and change this to a const and run this, we see that there's an error and it says x is not defined. So that's the other major difference between const and let and var. So const and let have what's called a lexical scope. So with var, if you remember, var is scoped to the function. var, it's contained within function blocks. It totally ignores like if statements, for loops, like it ignores those. It doesn't treat those as new scopes or new boundaries. Vars are just all they care about is the function. And so vars are mapped to the function. Const and let, they are scoped to the block. And so what that means is if statements, for loops, while loops, do while loops, and then functions as well. So const and let, you can define a const inside of an if statement, and it will only exist within that if statement. If you define it within a for loop, it will only exist within that for loop. So const and let are both defined and live inside of their block, like this code. And so this is called lexical scope. Block scope is when we're maybe there's probably a bigger, there's probably more like a larger definition for it, but essentially it's just for functions. So, all right, so that's like a slight nuance to understand as well. So if you define this x right here, this x only lives and exists inside of this if statement. Okay. All right, let's, real quick, we have this thing called Socrative. Okay, so I want you guys to go to, I just posted the link. So go to that link, go to student sign up, and then type in Lambda School as the name of the group. So inside of here, we're going to use this. It's anonymous polling. And so this is a way for me to ask a question to the class and just see how you guys are doing. All right. So go to click on student login. So yeah, click on student login. So I see 11 students in there now. So it tells me how many are in there, but I don't know who's in there. And then I don't know what you answer. So again, this is totally anonymous. So feel free to put whatever you would like. All right, so a common thing that I'll be doing with this is I will be polling your understanding. So I'll be asking, I have 22 students in there. I don't know how that happened. Maybe some teachers. I'm just kidding. Okay, so yeah, so I'll be asking just kind of some general questions about your understanding. And what we'll do is we'll say that like A will be like 100%. So if you, so for example, so I'm going to ask you, how do you feel about const and let? And so obviously you haven't coded with it yet, really played around with it much, but just high level, how are you feeling about it? A is like, totally got this. E is like, I am totally lost. I have no idea what you just talked about. And then B, C, D are just in between. So like where between like, you know, I've mastered, or I feel very, very confident with this to I have absolutely zero confidence. Like where do you fall? And so just go and click A, B, C, D, E somewhere in there. A is I got it, E is I don't got it. Cool, all right. So yeah, this, all right, looks good. Everyone's feeling pretty good about this. All right, so again, you know, a little more, just, yeah, it'll click more once you're writing it. Oh, not just the question. Oh, cool, sorry, I have that covered by the Socrative window. Okay, why const versus var? Just scope, just wondering why they switched, yeah. So the reason that we use const now is because the lexical scoping thing is nice now that they're scoped to these smaller blocks. The other thing too is that if you have variables that cannot be reassigned unless you're intentionally wanting them to be, it prevents you from accidentally reassigning variables that you're not meaning to, like later on in your code. Like let's say you have a line, like a block of code, like a file that's, you know, 600 lines of code, you know, and then somewhere in there you accidentally overwrite another variable, or you accidentally mutate it in a way that you didn't intend to. With a const, you're going to spot it instantly because it's going to break. And so it's this idea of introducing strictness to the code to make it so it's perhaps a little more irritating to write, but then once you've written it and you get it down, it's in a more stable spot to add on to later. Because like maybe you'll write the code and then you'll leave it, you'll come back in a month, you need to fix something or change something. By imposing these stricter guidelines, it makes it so the code will be more maintainable and less loosey-goosey. And so JavaScript has a reputation for being pretty loose, and that can be a good thing and that can be a bad thing. So anyway, so it's kind of, JavaScript's been kind of moving closer and closer towards these lower level languages and implementing features that have typically been present in other languages. So cool. So if constant are defined outside those blocks, loops, functions, etc., then you can call them elsewhere, right? Yep. So the scoping behaves. It's exactly the same as the for loop. It's it's exactly the same as var. So if you declare a var on the global scope, it's on the global scope. If you declare a const on the global scope, it's on the global scope. If you define them in functions, they're in that function. But then like with const and let, the only difference is that if you define them in an if statement or a for loop, they will only exist within that if statement and for loop. Or any if or else or fors or whatever that are nested inside of those. And so again, it's just the idea of scoping where outside stuff can't see in, but inside stuff can see out. I'm not sure about specific memory advantages. I'm not sure if there's any. There may be. I don't know. I'd have to. It's a pretty high within JavaScript. It's a pretty high abstraction, but let's. Yeah, not 100% sure on that one. So probably not, but maybe. It's more just for your code stability, so you're not accidentally introducing some weird bugs and errors. Okay, good question, Alan. Great. Cool. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the next aspect of the language. There's a lot of features in ES6. Today we're just going to focus on a couple of them, have you guys introduced to implement those, and then we'll just be tagging more on as we go along. Also, I'm going to show you this. If you go to babbel.js.io, go to Learn ES 2015 and their site. Bugs me. It keeps thinking I am on a tablet, even though I am clearly on a desktop. Okay. Well, so, anyway, it's not a desktop, but a laptop. Anyway, so these are all. It has all the different features of the language. So browser support for ES6 is. It wasn't like all of a sudden all the browsers at the exact same moment flipped the switch and they all supported it perfectly. They've all been kind of adding on like support for different features like incrementally, and they're all in different spots. And Internet Explorer has like traditionally been like the slower one, and their new browsers a lot better Edge, but the other ones have been a pain to work with from a web development standpoint. But so Babbel is a tool that is used to compile your ES6 code into ES5 code so it can run on any browser. And this is used, we'll be using this later on. We get into React and stuff like that. But for right now, you don't need to worry about it, but they have excellent documentation for the new ES6 features. So you can come here and you can look at all of these, all of the different aspects of the language that have been added. So this is a great resource for reviewing and learning ES6. And you can even like try it out. You can even like compile the code. You can like put in ES6 and see what it turns into with ES5. Okay. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is an arrow function. So the arrow function, essentially, you're just replacing the function keyword with a fat arrow like that. So in ES5, we had two ways that we would define functions. We had a named function like that, a function declaration called a declaration right here. And then we had var foo is equal to our function like that. This is a function expression. So it uses an equal sign. And so that's why they call it an expression. So you're declaring a variable or reference, and it is referencing an anonymous function. This function right here is a named function declaration. This is an anonymous function declaration that's assigned to the variable foo. So there's a slight difference here in their behavior. It has to do with hoisting, but pretty much it just means that With var foo gets function, you can reference foo down here, but you can't reference it above it. With a function declaration like this, that means that you can reference foo anywhere in the file that the function's declared in. Essentially, before the code is run, function declarations are like lifted to the top of the file. But anyway, so this is how we wrote our functions in ES5. Here's how you're going to write your functions in ES6. You're going to do const foo is equal to that whole thing. So that right there is this is how we're going to write functions in ES6 from now on. So this is what you'll default to. So with foo like this, const foo is equal to, and then we do this block. Anyway, it's a shorthand syntax for defining a function, and there's a couple advantages that come from writing it this way. It doesn't bind the this keyword to it, and we'll go over that in more detail when we get into advanced JavaScript, because we'll be reviewing this and going into all of that. So don't worry about that right now. But essentially right now, it's just, you can think of it as like a shorthand syntax. So let's write out a function. Let's do const double. So double takes in a number. We're going to return n times 2. So then now down in here, I can say const.log. Well, let me break this out into a result real quick. Let's do const result is equal to double, and then we'll pass in a 5. Okay. So the way the computer reads this, it starts to the left, reads to the right, goes down the page. So we see const double, so we create a reference to double. We assign it equal to this function. It doesn't read the function yet. It just sees, okay, a block of function code is assigned to the reference double. Then it comes down to line 4, then to line 5. Okay, line 5, const result. Okay, so create a reference called result. Set it equal to the result of this expression. So an expression is some code that needs to be evaluated at runtime. And right now, double, which is a reference to the function, so it's going to see double, go up, find double, see what it refers to. Okay, it's a function. So it's going to take the function, and then it will invoke it. That's what the parentheses mean. And then it passes in 5, number 5. Number 5 comes in. N is a parameter that refers to 5. So 5 comes in, and then we say return n times 2, or 5 times 2. And so then it will return 10 from there. So essentially n is 5, and this is a 5. This expression gets evaluated to 10. Then we return 10. Well, this is 5, but this entire thing right here essentially becomes the number 10. Then we come down here, and then console.log result. So result is a reference to right here, which is the number 10. So then we stick a 10 in right there, and then we log it out. That's essentially this workflow that's happening in our code. So now I'm going to do results. This is a little overview of functions again. And you can reuse it, use it multiple times. So we run, and we see that 10 was printed out to the console. Okay, so there are some shortcuts that we can use with arrow functions that you can't do with normal functions. If you have a single line return like this, you can actually get rid of that and bring it up onto the same line, get rid of those parentheses, and do this. And this right here is the function. That's everything in there for the function. It implicitly adds a return statement. If you leave off a return statement in an arrow function and the arrow function's on one line, it adds a return statement. So we just have one expression in the function, automatically gets returned. And so here we run it and we see 10 is printed out again. And so it allows us to significantly simplify our code. So those are some of the advantages. Again, if you're familiar with this, an arrow function does not bind a new this into its context, which can be good. Sometimes you need this, and so then you'd have to use the function keyword to get this, access to the this keyword. But with an arrow function, sometimes you're not wanting to create a new this context inside of like nested functions. And again, if that went over your head, don't worry about it. But we'll cover that more later, and that will be especially useful when we get into backend development. Start doing stuff with MongoDB and like doing that database stuff. There's times where this will be very helpful. Okay, so arrow functions. Again, just kind of the shorthand. You can put them on objects. So if we had const object is an object like this. Our object, we would say, so foo, you just define it like that. If we wanted to have this double function on there, you just put that right there. Something like that. So anyway, now this object would have a double method on it. So you can just add it on. If you need to break it onto multiple lines, then you just, of course, put curly braces around it. You could do like product like that, and then I'm going to return the product. So anyway, there's like different ways that you can write it and kind of shorten it. And that's one of the main advantages for writing with an ES6 function. So again, this is how you're going to be writing your functions right here. Okay. All right, so anyway, that's how we do that. Okay, any questions about this? Okay, this is kind of your first taste of ES6. And then now we're going to get you guys set up to go ahead on your project. So the first repo that you're going to be working through is this basic JavaScript repo. So basic JavaScript, again, you'll be working with a partner on this. And yes, this is the way that you'll be going forward on it. All right. Let's see. Okay, so the way this will work, one of you will fork it. So in your partnership, we'll do a little annotation of this. So if this is the repo, this red box, then one of you in the partnership, you'll decide beforehand, will fork it. And so that makes a copy of it. It's still like up in the cloud or up on the internet. So if this is the cloud, then here's my version. You're going to fork your own version. So everyone will be forking off like copies from the main one. And then you guys will both have your computers down here. And sorry, they're doing some construction in our office. So if you hear some music playing in the background, that's what's going on. Okay, and so then, all right, so this forked copy, we have person A and then person B. A is going to clone it down. And then, well, person B, you'll both clone it down, and then A will be driving, so they're the one actually writing the code and updating. So I'll be doing lots of commits, and then when it's time to trade, after about half an hour or so, trade, and then person A will push their code up, and then person B will do another pull to get the code back down. And so now they're up to date. And then person B will start coding away, making lots of commits, and then when it's time to switch, person B will push up their commits. Person A will need to add B as a collaborator. So you have to go into settings and add person B as a collaborator on the project. So that way B can push to it. Because on GitHub, everything is open and you can clone anything, but you cannot push to it. You have to be the person who owns that. And so person A will have to add person B as a collaborator on the project. But then, person B will push up his updates, and then person A, she'll clone it down. And then, anyway, that's the workflow. That's the way that you'll be, this is how you'll be developing for the next little bit in our class. And so we may experiment with this process going forward and in different, so we may experiment and make some tweaks to this, but this has been a pretty good way of doing it. Okay, any questions about this? Yeah, so here's where you fork it. That's the button you push, fork. And then this one right here, clone or download, that's the button you push to get the link to clone it down. Okay. And like there's where it says like the repo. And then as you clone it, it will go and put it under your, or as you fork it, it like makes your own copy of it up in the cloud. Okay, so fork, clone, and then add commit push. At the very end, when you guys are all done with the project, you'll submit a pull request back. And then I will go in and essentially it's going to show the two files, like it'll show all the files like next to each other. So it'll be like, it'll have like yours right here, and then it'll have the original empty one here. And then one of our teachers or TAs will go through and then, you know, correct it and just like give you feedback on it. Okay, there's also a thing on here called the linter, a linter that you have not had. Well, I think there was some linting in the JavaScript mini bootcamp too, but this one's a lot more strict. This one's super strict actually. So it's a variation of the Airbnb an Airbnb JavaScript style guide. And so this is where you can go and look if there are any rules in there that you don't understand that are breaking, that you don't get. Those definitions for them are all in here. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to go to, I'm actually in it right now. So, and I should have one that's open. Okay, let me change my screen share so you guys can see. And let's do, okay, let's do a new share and desktop. All right. Okay. So, all right. So if we go to, all right. So we have project one. So I've cloned it down, and here are some different projects, things in here. This is me. Someone answered a question earlier, but okay. So you have a source folder that will have 4 different projects in it. The expectation is for you to complete all of this by Wednesday. And then there's automated tests that are going to be running for each project in here, each file. So again, you've seen that it was all refactored from the JavaScript mini bootcamp homework, but it's now in ES6. So you're just going to be rebuilding that with your partnership using just adding in some ES6 features and then writing code in a way that satisfies the linter. So right here, so you have multiply by 10. So we're just going to say return num times 10. We save it. I'm going to pull up the terminal. I'm going to clear that so it's clean. Okay, so now we're going to run some tests. And so we'll say npm test. And right when you clone it down, the first thing you'll have to do is run npm install. So that adds all the packages. So we're going to run npm test. That's going to run all the tests. There's 85 tests, or 86, so 85 failed. One of them passed. The one that passed is clear up here. So something you can do is you can run one file at a time. So you can go npm test and then say project 1. And then now it's only going to test that one file. Now it's a lot easier to read instead of having to dig through everything. So we can scroll up and we see, all right, multiply by 10. Okay, great. So that one is passing. So multiply by 10. The first question is passing and good to go. All right, and then yeah, as you work through, it'll show your failed tests. You probably saw this with the mini bootcamp stuff. If you're unfamiliar with this or having some issues with it, then we can help you get set up. But you'll need Node installed on your computer, of course. And then yeah, so I know with like some of the late editions, like people that join the class or sign up a little bit later, they may not have done the JavaScript mini bootcamp. So make sure that you download Node and have Node installed on your computer. Again, I can help you get that going if you need. And then, yeah, so clone the project down, run npm install, then run the tests, and then fill in the code inside of the src folder. That'll make the test pass. And again, if you're confused about a question, go and look in the test files. So if you look in project 1 test, here's the test. So multiply by 10, you can see it defined right here, the function multiply by 10. And then we see it should return the argument after multiplying by 10, and then you can see how I'm using it. So I'm saying I'm calling the multiply by 10 function, I'm passing it at a 10, and I'm expecting to get back like 100 is the answer. Then I call it again, passing in 0, and I'm expecting to get back a 0. So those are the 2 ways that the function's being called. So it's expecting those 2 answers. Okay. All right, so then you will just do this for all of them. You know, some of the first ones are a little easier, but then they'll get more complicated, and then this will help you just get deeper and better and deepen your understanding of the basics of JavaScript to get that foundation set, and then we'll move into the more advanced stuff later in the week. Okay. Good Slack. All right. All 4 projects. Yes. So do all 4 projects. All of everything in basic JavaScript should be done by by Wednesday. Do your best. I mean, if you guys don't make it all the way through it, that's fine. Just do your best on it, and then we'll start with advanced JavaScript stuff. Do that, and then that one especially, we probably won't have everyone finish it. It's pretty hard. There's a lot of stuff in it. But then that gets you guys into a very, very solid spot for next week when we get into data structures and algorithms and some of the deeper CS stuff. Wednesday, as in not tomorrow, but the day after. So all of this should be done by Wednesday. Yep. And do your best. Like just like within class time, work with your partner on it. A lot of this too is us like getting environments and everything set up and good to go. And this is your warm-up project. Yep, yeah, so Homebrew is awesome for using Node. Highly recommend that. I was going to assign you guys, let's see, all right, go back to Socrative, and then doing another little poll. So click A if you want me to select your partners, click B if you want to pick your own partner. I said A was for me picking your partners, right? It's funny, I give you a quiz if I don't even remember what I said they were. Yes, okay, great. All right, it's been a long day. Okay, cool. So let's, yeah, so true or A. Like, I think I should probably just say like A or true. But yeah, just true or false. So true is you want me to pick your partners. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna pick your partners. Yeah, so I'll be pairing you guys up. Just because it's like online, if we were all like in a classroom, I'd make you guys just like pick your partners. But when it's like online like that, I find that you have to kind of like force you guys to like socialize a little bit. Like it's a lot easier to just kind of like hide behind the computer. And anyway, so yeah, we just discovered a couple little hacks along the process that help people work more efficiently in a distributed team environment. All right, cool. Okay, so we're going to jump into the project again. As review, fork it. You'll both clone it down from the fork. Whoever owns the fork needs to add their partner to it, and then work from there. So one person will be the driver, one person will be the navigator. The navigator is the one that's going to be talking. The driver is the one that's typing. So like you'll both like work together on it, but then like just one person will be typing, and then you'll switch back and forth. So make sure that you're switching about every half an hour. Okay, so we'll just be doing this for the rest of the night. All right, I'm gonna assign out your partners. So everyone's staying here right now. I'm gonna divide your partners up right now, just through the people who are in the call. So let me, okay. All right. So is it Aaron? Aaron George?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so we'll do Aaron and Alan. So we're just gonna go in alphabetical. So we have Aaron and Alan, Alex and Bobby, Bridget and Calvin, Colin and Drew, Garrett and Jesse, Carrie and Catherine, Matt and Pratik, Sandeep and Satish, Travis and I'm sorry, who is that? Villanova? Villanueva? I'm sorry, how do I pronounce your name? What is your name?
Vance.
Vance. Okay, all right. Sorry, I missed that with the way that it was. Okay, and then let's see, and then I'm sorry, is it Evie?
Yeah, Evie.
Okay, Evie. So Evie, you'll be with Vance and Travis. So we'll have a group of 3.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll have a group of 3. So, all right, so what you guys are gonna do, direct message each other. So go into Slack, go in the direct message your partner, and then so you'll have like this open little chat where you can communicate. I would recommend using Google Hangouts. Yeah, Google Hangouts is pretty standard. And then, yeah, and then just one of you will do a screen share, and then just, again, work through that process. So I will be around to answer questions and help students. You know, so feel free to either ask questions in the help channel or ask them in, you know, LS2 PT. You know, I encourage you to just, you know, work with your partners and people that you're with to, you know, to solve these problems. So, all right. Thanks, everyone. If there's no more questions, then we're going to end the meeting, and then I will upload this video. So this video should be available in about 10 minutes. Okay. Thanks, everyone.